Rangers baseball is presented by AT&T UVerse TV. It is another gorgeous evening here in Motown. Very few clouds in the sky. The Rangers, though, will try and brew up a storm as they take on the Detroit Tigers. And welcome in, everyone, along with Mark McLemore, Steve Busby. Glad you could join us for this Friday night of Ranger baseball. Rangers trying to bounce back from a very forgettable game last night against the Tigers, a one-hit shutout. And tonight, not much of an easier time as they face Justin Verlander, and they will send Colby Lewis to the mound to oppose him.
Right, it's not going to be easy for them. Justin Verlander's had some time on the disabled list this year, but he looks like he's coming back to form. His last 5 games, he's been really tough. You see that 1.7 ERA in his last 5 starts, so he's been getting the job done. But the Rangers have their own ace on the mound, Colby Lewis. He's got 13 wins. That ties him for 3rd in the AL, so he's looking for win number 14, and he's been pitching very well himself.
Yeah, both of them have been throwing the ball extremely well lately, and that's how it'll match up here this evening. Rangers try to get back into the win column in the second of 4 games over the weekend. Mitch Moreland and company getting ready to take on the Tigers from Detroit. We'll come back with more of our starting lineups and first pitch right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. Texas Ford dealers. The best deals are happening now only at your Texas Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. By AT&T UVerse TV. UVerse has more live TV channels on the go than cable. And by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Now, Colby Lewis making his way in from the Ranger bullpen. He is set to go, and so are the Rangers. We'll come back with the starting lineups and the first pitch for you right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. Radigan is standing by. John?
Hey, Buzz, thanks very much. Just outside Comerica Park. And when they built this place about 15 years ago, people had the chance to buy bricks and honor folks. Well, I did that for my dad, who's lived here for almost 80 years. And it says, Jim Radigan, thanks for teaching me to love the game. And look who's here tonight, Buzz and Mac, but my dad. 80 years a Tiger fan, but Dad, would it kill you to wear a little Ranger gear? I work for the Rangers. Look at, he's thinking about it. Briefly. There you go. He's a Rangers fan tonight, guys. Let's get it back over to you.
Nice going, John. Good conversion right there. I like that.
That's pretty awesome. Put the pressure on him right there on TV. There you go.
Well, John, that was such a nice gesture on John's part that his dad had to accommodate him just for a second, if nothing else.
And you heard him say it. Just for a second, I can do it. That's it. That's all he's going to give him.
Oh, goodness. Well, Mac's going to tell you now about the Southwest Airlines Rangers lineup tonight.
Right, leading off for the Rangers, we center fielder Delino DeShields. Shin-Soo Choo has reached base in all 25 games since the All-Star break. He'll bat second and play right field. Fielder's going to be the DH, Adrian Beltre. He's second in all-time career games at third base with 2,441 games. He'll bat cleanup and play third base. Rougned Odor is going to hit seventh. And he's the only one who got a hit last night. Single to right field. He's going to play second base and bat seventh. Will Venables in left. He'll bat eighth. And Bobby Wilson's the catcher. And he'll bat ninth.
And that Ranger lineup facing the veteran right-hander Justin Verlander. 4 basic pitches, but he is anything but basic in his approach to pitching. Ranger hitters will find out early about his command. Really, that's the only thing that has a chance to set back Verlander, as if his command is not what he is accustomed to. Underway, and the first pitch is into Delino DeShields for strike one. Delino 259 with the average. A home run and 25 RBI as he gets ready to start things off here tonight. Rangers, of course, 1 hit last night. That's the 3rd time this year they have been held to 1 hit in a ball game, but the first time outside of Odotco Coliseum. The other 2 had been at the hands of the A's, and last night, Alfredo Simon able to turn that trick, his first career complete game. On the inside corner, Delino taking it. And the count is 1-2. Rangers come in at 61 and 59. They are still 4 games back in the AL West. They are trailing the Angels by a full game now for that second wild card spot. Baltimore between the Rangers and the Angels. And Delino DeShields, a swing and a miss. The out is recorded at first, 1 away. And we'll take a look at the rest of the Tiger defense behind Verlander tonight. Tigers come in second in the American League with the highest fielding percentage. Jose Iglesias, the shortstop, just 1 error in the last 21 ball games. That's 185 innings or so. Collins gets the start in left field. Gose and Martinez round out the outfield. Cabrera, Kinsler, Iglesias, and Castellanos with Alex Avila catching. No, 1 away on the strikeout. Here is Shin-Soo Choo. Choo batting at 244. Takes the pitch outside from Verlander. Choo reached base last night, had a walk in that ball game, so his streak of 25 consecutive games on base since the All-Star break is intact. 1-0 pitch. Now 2-0. Choo, the best hitter on the Ranger ball club since the break. He's hitting at .322 with 4 home runs in those 27 ball games. 2-1. But facing Verlander, no easy task. We mentioned Verlander, just 1 in 5 this year. He missed a significant amount of time in the first half due to some right triceps tendonitis. And you always worry when you hear triceps in the throwing arm, because that very much associated with rotator cuff problems. 2-2 now to Choo.
Choo's faced Verlander enough, understand what he's trying to do to him. He's got over 50 at bats, hitting at 245. Hadn't had a whole lot of success, but a couple of home runs sprinkled in there. So he understands exactly what Verlander's trying to do to him.
Verlander to the line. And back to the plate. Check swing. Did he go? No, he did not. And appeal down to third base, and the appeal comes back negative. That's Rod Culpa, the third base umpire, who was behind the plate in last night's game. Brian Knight, by the way, calling balls and strikes here this evening. So the count has gone full to Chu. Out of play. We'll try it again.
Well, now, I did say that he knows what he's trying to do to him. It doesn't mean it's going to help. I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah. Good news is I know what he's trying to do. Bad news is I know exactly what he's trying to do. That hasn't helped me before either.
Yep.
Well, yeah, when he's on, when Verlander's on, I mean, you know, it's like any quality pitcher, and this guy is ultra quality, despite only that 1-5 mark. But he is tough when he executes his game plan. There haven't been many people over the last 10 years that have been able to handle him.
No, he's been very dominant over the last 10 years.
Check swing, and Chu draws the walk. So his string continues, 26 consecutive starts reaching base. And Chu is aboard with one out. Prince Fielder coming up. And Prince kind of waiting, a little wry grin as he talked to Alex Avila, waiting for the response from the crowd. Not quite as vociferous as last night. The crowd calming down just a bit. Prince now second in the American League with that .321 average. And Verlander misses with a breaking ball. Prince, 17 home runs, 69 RBI. The 69 runs driven in still tops on the team. Mitch Moreland 5 behind him. Fielder, not a lot of at-bats against Verlander, just 6 previous attempts. And 2 balls, no strikes now. Midfielder still looking for his first hit off the right-hander. Well, Verlander, all you need to know is, well, a few things. 8 straight seasons with 200 or more innings. 9 straight seasons winning 10 or more games. Ball 3.
Those are good things to know. What that tells you, he's a quality pitcher, a great pitcher. Dominating pitcher when he when his stuff is on, and typically over the last 8 or 9 years, his stuff's been pretty much on.
Former first-round draft pick, 2004 draft. Grant's going the other way. He does it with authority. Going back is Collins, and near the warning track, Tyler Collins makes the grab. Back to first is Chu. There are 2 outs. Well, Adrian Beltre coming up. We're talking about Justin Verlander. On Kubota Power Stats deals with the 32-year-old right-hander, second player in Major League history to win Rookie of the Year, MVP, and Cy Young awards. Don Newcomb, the other. And that is quite an accomplishment by Justin Verlander. And on top of that, if that's not enough for you, he's dating Kate Upton. So that just rounds out the whole package right there.
Full house, huh?
Adrian Beltre stepping to the plate, batting at .265. He has 11 home runs, 38 RBI. Beltre, another one of the Rangers that have had a significant number of at-bats. 48 at-bats against Verlander. Right back at him. And Verlander protecting his mug, able to make the catch and gets the out at first. So the Rangers gone to the first, no runs, no hits. The Walker left stranded after a half inning of play. Rangers nothing, Tigers coming up.
All right, leading off for the Tigers, Ian Kinsler. He'll be at second base. Tyler Collins in the ball game tonight. He's got a 6-game hitting streak at .429. J.D. Martinez will be in right field. He's tied for the AL lead with outfield assists with 117, or with 13. Alex Avila will do the catching tonight, and he leads All-American League catcher since 2010 in throwing runners out with 117.
Oh, that Tiger lineup facing the 36-year-old right-hander Colby Lewis. Colby, just trying to continue his role. I mean, he is, from one start to the next, Colby is as rock solid and consistent as you could possibly be. That slider fastball combination has proved devastating for him, and it gets better the more times he goes out there. I don't think it's ever been better, his command from game to game, than it has been this year. Ian Kinsler taking a strike that evens things out. Kinsler back in that leadoff spot. Hit second last night, hitting at .304, 7 home runs, 56 driven in. Up the middle. How about that play by Colby? Back behind the back, snared it, and Kinsler's going to have a few choice words for him as he goes by.
You can't be happy about that.
You gotta be kidding me.
You see other guys do it. You see highlights everywhere, and now you see one of our own do it. Pretty nifty glove work there, right in the web too. Not in the hand, not a snow cone. He planned it that way.
Yep. Yeah, somebody would tell you that Colby Lewis is not in very good position for fielding when he gets through throwing. That just goes to show you he's in perfect position.
Perfect, especially for that one.
Just the way he planned.
Maybe only for that one.
The one out here is Tyler Collins, and he squirts one down the left field line. That'll slice back and go foul. Collins got that right off the end of the bat. No, it is 0-1. Mac told you that Collins enters the game with a 6-game hitting streak. .295 average with a couple of home runs and 12 driven in 30 ball games so far for Tyler Collins. Colby working quickly, misses outside to even the count. Collins recalled from AAA Toledo for the second time this year, back on the last day of July. 1-2. Colby Lewis trying to tie his career high with 14 wins. 13-5 at the moment. 14 wins back in 2011. One and 2 to Collins. Rangers in an extreme overshift, as you can see. Now 2-2.
It's kind of unusual for to go into that extreme overshift with a number 2 hitter. Doesn't seem to be a power hitter.
And slapping it out of play the other way. It's still 2 balls, 2 strikes. It looked like Collins, even when he has 2 strikes on him, is trying to take advantage of that overshift and slap it the other way.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's trying to do. Trying to hit over there to that left side. He's fouled 3 balls off to that left side over there, so he sees that hole and trying to take advantage of it.
There was an off-speed pitch that he got out in front of, and that's about 40 or 50 feet foul. Well down the right field side, but well back into the seats too. Collins at AAA this year batted just .247. That was in 53 games with Toledo. Again, the 2-2 from Colby. To left field. That sends Venable back. He has room in the alley. Makes the catch. 2 gone. And we'll take a look at the rest of the Rangers defense delivered to you tonight by Chicken Express. Saw Will Venable in left field. Again, Delino DeShields and Shin-Soo Choo finish out the outfield. Adrian Beltre, 1 error in his last 23 games, over 200 innings. Anderson Adore and Moreland over at first. Bobby Wilson behind the plate tonight for the Rangers. So 2 gone. Here is Cabrera. First ball swinging. Skies it to shallow right field. Choo, plenty of time to get there, makes the catch. And Colby Lewis with a 12-pitch first inning sends the Tigers down in order. We finished one at Comerica Park. Rangers and Tigers scoreless. Is left this season to come out for a $1 hot dog night at Globe Life Park. Next opportunity to enjoy this ballpark tradition is coming up on Wednesday, August 26th. Come on out to Globe Life and cheer on your Rangers against the Toronto Blue Jays. Tickets are available at TexasRangers.com. Well, the Rangers come to bat here in the top of the second inning. Scoreless ball game. Mitch Moreland, Elvis Andrus, Rougned Odor to face Justin Verlander. Verlander went through 16 pitches in the first inning, sending the Rangers down with just a walk to Shin-Soo Choo. Moreland at .291 with the average. He is the team leader with 18 home runs. 1 ball, no strikes. Mitch, as we mentioned, 64 RBI, second to Prince Fielder in that category. Tigers in an overshift against Moreland. 2-0. Ian Kinsler staying in his normal spot at second. The third baseman, Nick Castellanos, playing the rover spot out there in shallow right. Boy, Mitch had a pitch to work with and stayed up, and he swung through it. 2-1. Moreland, just 2 hits in his last 15 at-bats, but among the league leaders, he's 5th in road average this year as he takes strike 2. Mitch is hitting .314 away from Globe Life Park. He's also 10th in his average against right-handed pitching. Just a click below 300, although I'm not sure this qualifies as your typical right-hander that would figure into that.
This is not a typical right-hander by any means.
And Moreland gone swinging. Second strikeout for Verlander, 1 away for Elvis Andrus.
Well, Mitch got his hacks in, got a couple of pitches up in the zone that he could typically does something with. Verlander going right after him, trying to go down and in, left it out over the middle of the plate and ran just a little bit.
Well, here's Elvis. Now, let's see if he's seen enough from Verlander early in this game to go ahead and try and get a pitch early to drive. That's what he's been trying to focus on. Or it looks like that's what he's trying to do. Yes, with the fastball and use that leg kick and hammer on early count pitch. Takes that one inside for ball 1, and I would imagine Verlander has been made well aware of that.
Trying to go inside to jam him just in case he's looking for that fastball, which I'm pretty sure he is.
1-0 pitch. And come back with a breaking ball. Now that kind of approach from a pitcher will pretty much spoil your whole at bat if you're going up there looking fastball first pitch.
Yeah, you can throw your game plan right out of the window. Go to plan B.
2-1 now. Elvis, half a dozen home runs, already has tied his career high that he set in his rookie year back in 2009. 46 RBI, a .253 average. Verlander back to the plate. Ouch. Elvis just pounding that down on his front side and trying to run away from the hurt, but that's not going to work.
You know, I think at some point he's going to start going to that shin guard. Well, I don't think the shin guard would have helped that knee right there. Ooh.
Yeah, that would have gotten it above it, wouldn't have?
Yes.
Ah. Wow.
Yeah, that's going to leave a mark.
Till about what, Christmas?
Probably.
Gee, Christmas. Well, Kevin Harmon, the Ranger trainer, and Jeff Bannister out to check on Elvis to lend moral support more than anything. I don't think there's anything they can do about it.
Can't rub it. Not going to do a bit of good.
He needs some of that freezing spray, that alpha chloride that we had. Now, I'm not even sure you'd have a big enough canister of that to make it stop.
Unfortunately, they don't use that anymore. Man, I miss that stuff.
Guys started using it to kill off crickets, and I think that scuttled the whole deal.
They did.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
Using it for everything but what it was supposed to be used for.
PETA got on him about that. I think there was some concern. Now the 2-2 pitch. Line drive, base hit to right center field. So Verlander, instead of coming back inside again, it gave Elvis a slow breaking ball that stayed up, and Elvis said, "Thank you very much." There's the first hit of the ball game.
Elvis, a nice job staying on that breaking pitch, going right up the middle with it. Nice hand action, staying inside the baseball.
No, 1 on and 1 out, and it brings up Rougned Odor. Odor, who had the only base hit garnered by the Rangers last night, a 5th inning double with 2 outs. This has very quickly become Rougned Odor's second favorite ballpark in which to hit. He's just gone crazy here at Comerica. Overall, the average at .276 and not leveling off too much. This is the 5th game in Rougned's career that he has played here at Comerica. In the first 4 ball games, he has hit .533. Numbers right there with 5 RBI, 2 triples, 8 for 15. A 1 pitch. Nothing in 2. It's funny how that happened, how guys get in a mindset away from home in one ballpark that looks good to you. Is that what it is? You see the ball better, or what is it, Mac?
You know, I think so. For me, the parks that I really love to hit in, I could really see. The ball just looked bigger. It was just clear, everything. I just liked it. Toronto was my favorite ballpark to hit in, and I could just see it like it was a bowling ball. I mean, it just didn't matter who was pitching.
Huh. That's out of play.
I think I got excited being on turf. So I could just pound the ball into the ground, and it was probably going to be a hit somewhere.
Sure.
Especially that spongy turf that used to be in Toronto.
Nothing in 2 to Odor. Elvis at first base with 1 out here in the second. There goes Elvis, and Cabrera thought about going to second, even with Andrews on the move. Cabrera thought he might take a shot at him, but dropping the ball, that removed any possibility. Well, the step on first, and that is out number 2. But Elvis in scoring position now for Will Venable.
Yeah, that was going to be a tough play for Cabrera. Elvis on the run. Didn't know if he was going to try and go inside or outside. Probably inside, but that was going to be tough. Elvis slid to the inside just to try and block that throwing lane.
So 2 outs. Here's Venable, who went 0 for 2 in last night's game. Will just coming over from the San Diego Padres. Hit .258 in the National League. Strike 1. And one thing that Venable did very well this year, extremely well, with the Padres was he had hits with runners in scoring position. He's a .345 hitter in these situations in the National League. Verlander, a check of second. And that is out of play. Very quickly, no balls and 2 strikes. And you watch the radar gun readings, they will go up markedly when Verlander gets somebody in scoring position. He's cruising along at 91, 92, maybe occasionally 93. All of a sudden, you get a runner in scoring position, and that's pumped up to 94, 95. You may see more than that as the game goes on.
In my mind, those are the pitchers that are really good. They don't go out there and throw as hard as they can every pitch. They'll be down a little bit, and then when they need that extra giddy up, they can use it. And they have it. They need a strikeout runner at third base, less than 2 outs. They can pump it up 2 or 3 miles an hour, and that pretty much surprises that hitter.
Venable trying to guide one down that third baseline, just missed the bag. He'll come back with another 0-2 count. All 8 seasons for Will Venable with the Padres. The only major league club, the only organization he had known as a professional. 81 home runs, a .252 career hitter. Verlander sets again. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Justin Verlander, the Cy Young MVP combo back in 2011. Shortstop Iglesias sneaking in behind Elvis, and Verlander didn't really see him until it was too late to even think about making a throw. That's the view that Elvis has out there at second, peering in toward home plate. 1-2 pitch. We'll try that again. Mentioned last night, Will Venable, an anthropology major at Princeton University. He was all Ivy League in both basketball and baseball. Lives now down in Austin. So if you ever have, in the winter want to have an anthropological discussion with somebody, just look up Will. He'd be glad to talk to you about it. It'd take me 4 years to learn how to say and spell that, much less get a degree in it. The chopper foul the other way.
You did a pretty good job with that.
I've been practicing all day with that. I was up early this morning. Had it written out phonetically.
I'm not going to try it. I think you've got it down. Whenever we need to talk about, hey, all yours.
That may be the last time we talk about it then. Elvis getting that lead from second. Verlander will check him. Another 1-2 pitch. Evens the count. Venable, the Rangers remember Venable from spring training a number of times down there. He's always been a tough at bat. May not hit for a high average, but he gives you a good at bat every time he goes up there.
He does. He's a smart hitter, and he goes up there and he works the count.
And that one's low and inside, and half the, maybe 3/4 of the Tiger infield headed off the dirt, and they said, no, that is not a strike.
You know, I think I was headed off too, Buzz.
Yeah.
That looked pretty good, but Fox Tracker said it wasn't. Great job by Brian Knight behind the plate call on that one.
No, full count to Venable. Payoff pitch coming. Base hit left center field. That's going to score Elvis. It's up the alley. Venable into second. An RBI double. It's bobbled, so he's going to continue on over to third, and he is in there.
Nice.
Will Venable, his first hit as a Ranger. It drives in Andrus. It gives the Rangers a 1-0 lead.
Well, Buzz, it never fails. You miss a close pitch like that. Next pitch. Base hit. Verlander trying to go away on the outside part of the plate. Will stays right with it. Drills it into the gap in left center field. And he takes off. Ghost gets to it, almost cuts it off, but has a little trouble sticking it in his glove.
Now Bobby Wilson takes a strike. A Ghost charged with an error. It's going to go down as a double and an error on Anthony Ghost. Well, Venable, his first RBI as a Ranger, and that gets the team on top of Justin Verlander and the Tigers here in the second inning. Wilson fouls back the next pitch, and he's down in the count now. No balls, 2 strikes. Bobby, a .296 average as a Ranger. Overall, those numbers 195 with 10 RBI. 6 of the RBI have come in a Ranger uniform. Verlander working from a stretch with Venable at third and 2 outs. Got him swinging. Well, the hook got Bobby Wilson, but the Rangers on a big 2-out Will Venable double get the lead. A run on 2 hits, 1 left after 1.5. Rangers 1, Tigers nothing. State a strong fan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming Ranger broadcast. All that's brought to you by the good folks at T-Mobile, and we'll have tonight's selection a little bit later on in the ball game. Again, thank you for all the support we get from the people at T-Mobile. Make all that possible. Now, Colby Lewis has a 1-0 lead with which to work. He'll face the middle third of the Tiger order, starting with Victor Martinez here in the second. Martinez, a very good veteran hitter, hitting at .249 with 9 home runs, 53 driven in. But Colby has found him particularly difficult to deal with as he gets a strike. Victor Martinez is 10 for 18 in his career against Colby with a home run and 4 RBI. That's a .556 average. Straightened him up with that inside fastball. And the count moves to 2-1. And this is one of those deals where Colby going in, I'm sure identified both Cabrera and Victor Martinez, the guys that he was not going to allow to beat him if at all possible. And you say, hey, these guys, I'm going to do everything I can to keep the men in front of them off base. And if they come up in a game-winning situation or game-tying situation, they will not be able to swing the bat to beat us.
Right. I think he's got to come up with some strategy, and I'm sure those are the two as well, probably along with J.D. Martinez. It's not always easy, but you've got to identify a couple of those guys and say these aren't going to be the guys. Mm-hmm. There are other guys in the lineup that may be capable, but the two of those guys have a history with Colby and a pretty good history. So he's going to make sure that he's not going to give them something good to hit in game-changing situations.
Line drive to center. Delino coming on. That ball knuckled out there to him, and DeShields hesitated coming in, which was a good thing. He had to see what it was going to do and able to make the grab.
Yeah, that knuckleball coming straight at an outfielder is pretty tough. And typically center fielders, that's the toughest ball to really judge. It was off to his left a little bit, so I think that helped out.
If you're a young outfielder, is that what you should do? If you're not sure, just stand your ground there for a second?
Yeah, you have to. I don't think you really want to commit one way or the other until you have a pretty good idea, okay, where's the ball going to go? Mm-hmm. Because if you run back and you should have gone in, that's a base hit. And obviously you don't want to come in if it's going over your head,
right.
Especially in this ballpark.
Elvis gliding to his left up with it. And J.D. Martinez is out number 2. Yeah, the ball gets over your head here in center field, and it's going to be a while before you get it back in.
I think Bobby Wilson could probably get it inside the park right here.
Ooh.
Well, we saw Molina do it.
Yeah.
Benji did it in Boston.
That's right. And this is the same distance to dead center that it is to the triangle in Boston. Mm-hmm. 2 up, 2 away. 5 straight now sent down by Colby Lewis. Nick Castellanos, the third baseman, takes strike 1.
Yeah, we're taking a look at Delino out in center field, and you see his setup. He sets up with his body basically open toward left center field. One thing that does, that gives you an opportunity to get to the side of the baseball, and you can judge it better that way. And depending on who's up there, if it's a pull hitter, that means he's probably going to pull it in the gap. That gives you a step or two advantage going that way. There are a lot of guys that do it, even corner guys, or especially corner guys. You see more of them doing it than center fielders.
That's into center. A couple of steps to the left for Delino, and that will do it. So Colby Lewis, perfect through 2 as the Tigers are gone in order once again. After 2, Rangers 1, Tigers nothing. Park, and on Sunday, August 30th, the first 7,500 kids 13 and under will receive a Shin-Soo Choo blue batting helmet. That's courtesy of Dairy Queen. Head on over to TexasRangers.com or call 972-RANGERS to get your tickets. Choo batting second in the lineup and in this inning. Top of the order to face Justin Verlander. Rangers leading 1-0. Delino to Shields. Bunting. Avila jumps on it. The throw not in time as Delino to Shields, the league's leading bunt hitter, gets another one. And that's the first one we've seen him have just a straight bunt here for a while. The other ones have been sacrifice situations.
Yeah, it has, and I'm glad he's bringing this part of his game back. He really needs it. He's very good at it. That ball didn't get out there very far. It was still on the dirt, basically, and he just outran it. Avila did everything he could possibly do, about 4 or 5 feet on the grass. Tremendous job getting that ball down, and just look at him take off. And nice job beating it out.
Boy, it is fun to watch him run. Whew. He can just flat out motor. And he's in the right city for that. You know, did you know this is a motor city?
That was pretty good.
Thank you.
That was pretty good.
Choo tops one foul, and it's 0-1.
Could tell what you've been doing all day.
I wrote down all my ad-libs. Or at least the ones I could think of. Choo drew a walk his first time up there. Batting against Verlander for the second time tonight now with DeShields at first and nobody out. Delino's bunt base hit, the third Rangers safety of the night off Verlander. Well, Verlander not particularly adept at holding runners close at first base. He still has a fairly high leg kick. Doesn't get the ball to home plate real fast, but it's good enough. A couple of different kinds of throws he'll make over there. That last one, what he does is try to quicken his feet up going over to first base at times and throw from different set positions. He won't always go to the set position and then throw like he did there, but the one before he threw while he was just standing there taking the sign. So that's one way to keep a base runner guessing with you.
It really is. And, you know, right now I think he's trying to tire Delino out so he can go to the plate. Because typically, you know, a pitcher may go over twice. If he goes over 3 times, you may need a little bit more time to get a little bit of a rest. But he's also got Avila back there. He's been one of the best catchers over the last 4 or 5 years at throwing runners out. 117 in the last 5 years, 6 years.
A ball and a strike to Choo. Delino a pretty good lead this time. And Choo pops it back out of play. Well, the Rangers have been a little sporadic with their running game. It's been come and go sometimes. 37 for the last 49 steal attempts. And Delino up among the league leaders with stolen bases. He's 5th with 21. Call, strike 3. Came back to the outside corner. And Verlander got the call. Choo is gone. That is out number 1. And before Prince Fielder steps in, let's send it back to Dana Larson for a Mazda game break. All right, Dana, thank you. Prince, boy, he had a rip at that high fastball. Fouled it straight back. Fielder drove the ball well to left field, but came up empty. Sent Tyler Collins back to about the warning track in left field his first time. Prince, a bit of a downturn the last 25 games or so, hitting just .247. And that's where you've seen his average fall down to its present .320. That's the lowest it's been since the 3rd game of the season. And the throw gets away. It's by Cabrera. Delino to Shields is going to run for a while. Around second, headed for third. He will stay right there as a 2-base throwing error by Justin Verlander puts DeShields at third with 1 out. Second Tiger error of the night.
Verlander really trying to pick the Shields off, but it leaves that ball up too high for Cabrera to get to. It's that tarp over there on the first base line, and the Shields was motoring.
No, Delino at third down. Count of no balls and a strike. The infield for the Tigers pulled all the way in. Popped foul. That's back into the seats. And Prince now down to the count. No balls, 2 strikes.
Yeah, Prince is just a little bit off right now with his timing because he's missing some pitches that he really hasn't missed all year long. But he'll get it back, and once he does, he'll go back to doing his normal thing. And, you know, every hitter goes through it.
And you can see runners in scoring position has suffered for Prince along with everything else, and that would make sense. 0-2 as Verlander sets. And this one skied to left field. Should be deep enough to score. Delino. Collins with a catch. The throw to the plate is offline. DeShields scores. Prince Fielder with the RBI, his 70th of the year, and the Rangers take a 2-0 lead. He may be a little off, but Fielder, you get an RBI out there, and he's going to do whatever it takes to get that run home.
It's a great at bat right there. He's battling himself, or battling up there in the box right now, scuffling a little bit. But hey, runner at third base, less than 2. His #1 job is to do this. 0-2, didn't miss that one by much. Got enough of it, hit it deep enough to get that run across. It's great having speed at third base when,
yes,
when you're scuffling a little bit.
Now here's Beltre now, base is empty, and 2 outs. Takes high, ball 1. Yeah, you remember that pop-up that Prince had about 6 weeks ago that was out in a shallow left center field, and DeShields scored from third and made it a sacrifice pop-out?
Yes, I remember that.
I sure hope Prince took him out to dinner after that. It saved an at-bat for him, got him an RBI.
I bet he did. He doesn't forget stuff like that.
Sure doesn't. 1-1 to Beltre. Adrian, a shot right back to the mound that Verlander turned into an out in the first inning. Right-hander with a 1-1 pitch. Now 2-1. Adrian now just 1 for his last 13 times to the plate. That's over the last 3 games plus 1 at bat here tonight. But you go back over the last 10 ball games, he's hit .343. And ahead in the count here, 3-1. So Beltre trying to keep this inning going. He's going to try and get on base ahead of Mitch Moreland. Verlander's next pitch. And a 2-hopper out to Kinsler at second. That will do it for the Rangers, but they get on the board again. It's an unearned run. Rangers get a run on 1 hit, 1 error, and nobody left. After 2.5, Rangers 2, Tigers 0. is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. The best deals are happening now only at your Texas Ford dealer. Ford is the best in Texas. And by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Now Colby Lewis back out to the hill, now protecting a 2-0 lead. Rangers have scored one in each of the last two innings. And Alex Avila will start things off the bottom third of the Tiger order. Avila hitting just 173. A lot of, well, I guess there's a catcher controversy, or at least there was. Avila and the young catcher, James McCann, rookie catcher. McCann, for the most part, pretty much supplanted Alex Avila of late. Avila had some injury problems, has had the last several years.
Yeah, I think that kind of hampered his offensive production. You know, not only is he a good defensive catcher, he can hit a little bit.
And he shoots one the other way by the dive of Elvis Andrus. And there's the first base hit off of Colby Lewis tonight. Well, the Ranger overshift that time cost him an out as the ground ball went right at the standard shortstop hole.
Yeah, these overshifts are, whew, I don't know, there's something else.
Well, yeah, you know, I point that out, not trying to demean the idea of overshift, because we don't have the statistic to tell you how many times they prevent a base hit going through into the shift. But, boy, when it's a normal ground ball to short, you have to say, wait a minute here.
Yeah, you got to shake your head a little bit.
The 1 on and 1 out, and Jose Iglesias takes the breaking ball for strike one. Iglesias batting down toward the bottom of the order. A .306 hitter with 2 home runs, 21 driven in. Hard to strike out, 9.5 at bats between strikeouts. In the dirt, nice job by Bobby Wilson to keep that ball from going to the backstop. 1-1.
Well, I like what the Rangers have done so far with Verlander, getting to him early. He's one of those pitchers that the longer you leave in there, the better he becomes.
Yep.
You know, his stuff doesn't diminish, especially the velocity on his fastball. So you want to get him out of, or get to him as quickly as possible, and hopefully get him out of the game early.
Yeah, score every opportunity you have early in the ballgame, because they do diminish as time goes on. And the last thing you want to do, if you're Colby Lewis, is let the Tigers get back into the scoring column right away, too. That shutdown inning is extremely important with a guy like Verlander opposing him.
It's huge. You know, Colby does a really good job of, you know, allowing the team to put the ball in play, pitching to contact, and letting that defense behind him work.
Little topper down at first. Moreland will take the out as he tags Iglesias. Ball hit right off the end of the bat, a cue shot, and Moreland gets the out. Avila to second. He is there with 1 away for Anthony Gose. Alan Trammell in your picture, taking over at first base, taking over the first base coaching duties here for the near future. Former Tiger great, major league manager a couple of times, and nice to see him back on the field. Old friend Omar Vizquel went from the first base coaching box over to third. A 1 on, now 1 out. Anthony Gose, a .256 hitter, stands in. 1 ball, no strikes. That bluff bunt had Adrian Beltre charging down the line from third. Gose, of course, the speed burner. He can really motor. Took an 0 for 3 in last night's ball game. Colby with a 1-0 pitch. That almost hit him. And Gose, it did hit him. And Jeff Bannister, boy, he just shot out his perch on the top step of the Ranger dugout. He's going to go out and check with home plate umpire Brian Knight. He didn't think that got Gose. Gose reacted about 2 seconds after you would think that a guy would react when he got hit.
It's kind of tough right there. If he's hurting that bad, it's kind of strange that Bobby Wilson would be able to catch the ball. Well, I guess so.
Yeah, it did.
Can also make a case that he was out of the box.
Right. That's what I was kind of looking at from that center field shot, whether that foot was across, and that part of the call would not be something you could appeal. But from that angle, it sure looks like, Mac, that he got his foot.
Yep, it did.
So, unfortunate turn of events there. Runners at first and second now, and back to the top of the order for Ian Kinsley. I guess the only good thing about Ghost getting hit is that he's got Avila in front of him, so you don't worry about the speed factor of stealing bases anyway. Unless Avila had a speed transplant.
He did not.
I don't think he did he?
No.
So Kinsler up for the second time tonight. He was picked clean by Colby Lewis going behind his back. As Kinsler led off the game with a chopper back through the middle. He hit a 304 hitter. Lines one to left center field. Coming on Venable. He'll have to play it on a hop. And the stop sign is put up at third. Avila hesitated just enough, getting his jump from second, that Omar Vizquel, thinking better of Alex Avila trying to score, held him up. The bases are loaded with one out.
Yeah, Avila wasn't going to score on that one. That was a good read by Vizquel. Kinsler jumping on the first pitch from Colby. Colby left that one out over the middle of the plate a little bit. He was trying to go away with that.
So the Tigers coming back, making some noise here in the third. They had the bases full, one out. Tyler Collins, who flied to left his first time, is up there. Rangers at double play depth up the middle as Colby misses outside for ball one. Collins, during his 6-game hitting streak, has hit .429. Colby from the stretch. And a strike right at the knees. Ian Kinsler thought he had an RBI with that base hit to left field, got to first and saw that Avila had stopped to third. Oh, darn. Good breaking ball. 1-2. If you think you might be seeing double down there at first, both Trammell and Kinsler were in the number 3. You don't see that happen very often.
You really don't. That is kind of strange. But that was Tram's number when he played. So he's not giving that up.
Double play ground ball to Elvis. He steps on second, fires to Moreland, and there you go. The 6-3 double play that stops the threat posed by the Tigers. No runs, 2 hits, 2 left. After 3, Rangers by 2. implications, and fans who stick around after the game will be treated to a post-game fireworks show. That'll be set to music highlighting the history of pop music. Fans using online coupon code FIREWORKS at TexasRangers.com/specials can get $14 seats. And seats are going fast, so don't wait. Get yours today. Well, the Rangers maintain that 2-0 lead as Mitch Moreland starts off the Ranger fourth inning. Justin Verlander deals high and outside, and it is because of this one double play that Colby Lewis able to get out of that inning.
Great pitch by Colby. Gets a breaking ball in on Collins. Right to Elvis. Steps on second. Over to first. Gets out of that inning. Beautiful pitch with the bases loaded. And Miguel Cabrera on deck. So that's exactly what he needed.
121 double plays this season. That's second most in the American League. Those are the ones turned by the Rangers. Mitch, a swing and a miss. It's 1 ball, 1 strike. Moreland down swinging his first time up. Well, Verlander has 4 strikeouts through the first 3 innings. But the Rangers have also touched him for a couple of runs on 3 hits.
You know, they've taken advantage of some errors that they've made. One by Verlander that sent DeShields around to third base, and then one by Gose out in center field that got Venable over to third base with less than 2 outs, and Fielder got a sacrifice fly. So they're taking advantage of the opportunities that they're getting.
Mitch took that breaking ball that stayed up. It's 2 balls and a strike. Verlander to the plate. And Moreland fouls it back and out of play. Verlander this season in this ballpark has had a rough go of it. This is his 7th start here at Comerica Park this year. The previous 6, he's 0-4 with a 6.34 ERA. This is a guy that, going back 10 years, has the most home wins of anybody in the American League. Kinsler knocking it down, throws out Moreland as he recovered. That is out number 1. No, 1 out. Elvis Andrus now will come up. Elvis had the first hit of the night for the Rangers. A 1-out single in the second, came around to score on Will Venables' 2-out double in that frame. Verlander into the motion, and the first pitch to Elvis. Again, starting him off with a breaking ball. It is strike 1. Go back to last year, too. The Rangers faced Verlander 1 time, and they roughed him up, and it was in this ballpark. Another breaking ball. He had 1 start against them, then 5 in a third innings. He gave up 11 hits and 9 runs. 6 of them were earned. There's that May 25th game of last year. Most runs he gave up in the entire year. 2-1 now to Elvis.
Elvis doing a good job of laying off that breaking ball away. I think he's got his mind set on a fastball in, and he's probably about to get one right now.
Avila flashing the signs. Verlander picks 1 out. Yeah, he was swinging for it, and he got the slider instead. 2-2. Elvis, after that base hit, has gotten his average back to 254. Got him swinging. Verlander pulling the string a little bit more. And the right-hander gets his 5th strikeout. There are 2 away for Rougned Odor.
Verlander being a smart pitcher, staying away from Elvis with the off-speed stuff. Knows he's looking for a fastball, probably on the inside part of the plate. Didn't see one to hold at bat. That's pitching.
Yep.
That's not just throwing, that's pitching.
Yep. Certainly is.
You've got secondary stuff that you can throw for strikes. Whew, that makes a pitcher really tough to hit.
Odor ground out to first his first time. He takes the breaking ball for strike one. Yeah, and the luxury that Verlander had that very few guys have is that he had the stuff to come up and learn how to pitch at the major league level and still survive because his stuff was overpowering. And then once he put the two of them together, it was lights out. And it has been. And now maybe the stuff has declined a little bit, not much, but he still has that knowledge of how to go about setting hitters up and how to use pitches. 1-1 to Odor. A 32-year-old right-hander out of Old Dominion University. Back to the plate he comes. And Arugnet pops it foul behind the screen. 2 balls and 2 strikes. We had talked about earlier, Verlander for the first time in his career had to go on the disabled list this year with that tricep strain. That had to just eat him alive. He took a lot of pride in going out there every time he was given the ball. And it's popped up into the twilight. Got the entire infield converging. Ian Kinsler waiting for it to come down. And that'll do it for the first time tonight. Justin Verlander sends the Rangers down in order. We finished 3.5. The Rangers 2 and the Tigers nothing. Book your low fare now at Southwest.com. And by Mazda. In every car we make, you'll see why driving matters. Now Colby driving the Ranger bus into the bottom of the 4th inning, dealing with Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, and J.D. Martinez. Cabrera skied out to right in the 1st inning. Takes the breaking ball to even things out, and a ball and a strike. Cabrera, a 357 mark. Left center field, that is down for a base hit. Delino to Shields to cut it off. Cabrera going for 2. The throw is not in time. Now Cabrera not noted for his speed. Delino to Shields did all he could to go over and cut that ball off nearly to the warning track and threw a 1-hop strike to the bag at Odor for Odor, and it was just a hair late.
I mean, that's just a double right there. Colby trying to go inside, hits his spot. But my goodness, That's a great hitter up there at the plate. Brings his hands inside, drills that ball in left center field. DeShields comes over, one hop. Just not in time.
Oh, just that close. No, that is the third hit of the night off of Colby Lewis. Cabrera at second now with nobody out, and Victor Martinez takes strike one. Now here's where that plan of who do you let see good pitches with the game on the line in the middle part of the ball game. You have Cabrera at second, nobody out, Victor Martinez, and then J.D. Martinez. You have first base open. So it becomes a guessing game, I would think, for Colby and Bobby Wilson, trying to mess with Victor a little bit in this at bat, and then possibly J.D. Martinez after.
Yeah, I think if I've got to pitch to one or the other that's coming up, I've got to pitch to Victor right now, even though first base is open, because the one thing you don't want to do is put him on first base and face J.D. Martinez with two guys on. This guy's got 32 home runs on the year, so I'm going to take my chances right now with Victor Martinez, and hopefully he hits a ground ball to Beltre.
Runners in scoring position this year has not been a strong suit for Victor Martinez, just that .234 average. Ranger infield around to the right, but not in an overshift. And Colby making a decided effort to keep that ball away from him. Good look at the Ranger defense. Elvis chatting with Miguel Cabrera out there as he plays very near the bag at second. That ball is hit well to right center field, up the alley. DeShields a long run back at the wall. He leaps into it, makes the catch, and Cabrera will have to go back and tag. He was halfway. He will go back to the bag, and that will prevent him from getting over to third. A nice play by Delino DeShields for out number one.
We'll take that mistake there. I think Cabrera, if he sees Delino about to catch it, he's got to be a little bit closer to second base. So you can tag up there. If that ball goes off the wall, he's going to score, no matter where he's at, pretty much. So, not getting over to third base with less than 2 outs. That's a tough one right there. Great one for Colby.
And a nice play by Delino, who is playing over into left center field a bit. So one very big out. No advance by Cabrera. Now J.D. Martinez. This would be a guy that probably wouldn't see much that he can drive out of the ballpark, I wouldn't imagine.
No, he's got to stay away, in my opinion, and hopefully he can do the same thing, hit a little pop-up or a weak ground ball to the right side.
Nick Castellanos in that on-deck circle. J.D. Martinez 0 for 1 tonight with a ground ball to short. And Colby painting that outside corner. That had to be a thick coat of paint to get that marker. Pretty good with runners in scoring position this year. J.D. Martinez, a .308 average. He's 5th in the American League with 81 RBI. And Colby getting him to swing through a slider ahead of the count now. A ball and 2 strikes. J.D. Martinez, in his last 58 ball games, has 22 home runs and 54 RBI. And he lofts a fly ball to right. Chu, drifting to his left, makes the catch. And Cabrera staying at second. That is out number 2. So mission accomplished with those two Martinez's.
Colby hitting the spots with both of these guys. And that's what it's about, executing pitches when you need to. Now he just has to finish off Castellanos.
See Cabrera out there kind of shaking his head a bit. He knows that had he gotten to third base the way he was supposed to, he would have scored for J.D. Martinez's fly ball.
Right, and he knows he should have been at least over to third base on that play.
2 outs. Here comes Castellanos. Castellanos on a pretty big RBI bench. He has 7 RBI in his last 3 ball games. Or 9, make that 9 RBI in his last 3 ball games. Hitting at .545. Nothing in 1. 0 for 1 tonight with a fly ball to center. Colby for the second straight inning trying to work around some danger spots. Last inning was bases loaded, 1 out. Got the double play off of Tyler Collins' bat. This time, a leadoff double by Miguel Cabrera. And 2 outs later, he's trying to strand him right there. Elvis can't get it. Into left field. Venable up with the ball. Here comes Cabrera. Here comes the throw. The tag. He is safe at home plate. Looked like the ball beat him. Bobby Wilson trying to get the tag down on Cabrera's foot. And home plate umpire Brian Knight said no, he did not. And Jeff Bannister is going out. He's going to challenge this one.
Yeah, that's too close to not challenge. It looked like from up here he got him, but take a closer look at it. Can't really tell from that angle.
Here's a pretty good angle for you.
Oh,
yeah.
I think he got him there.
I think that is going to be overturned. So the Rangers, who have been on a pretty good run as far as getting plays overturned on appeal, see if they can continue it here. Again, Brian Knight right there on top of it.
Right there.
Sure looks like it.
It's going to be tough.
Thought he got that foot in underneath the tag. Now we will have to see how that works its way out, because Ron Culpa, the crew chief, and home plate umpire Brian Knight have the headsets on. Rangers coming off the field, so they are pretty sure that is going to be an out ruling. And the headsets on, hooked up to replay command center back in New York. The call on the field is safe, so there has to be clear and convincing evidence for the call to be overturned by the replay official. And we're not privy to all of the replay angles that are available, at least on our air. We're not privy to all of them, but they have every single angle you can possibly get available in New York. So this will be a well thought out and considered decision.
Well, the crowd sure got quiet once they saw a couple of those different angles on the replay.
They did.
And the more they show it, the quieter they get.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're all right.
And that last one coupled with this one right here, you can see there's a pretty good case. I would think Joey Probinski, the Ranger video review specialist upstairs, getting that word down to Steve Buechele very quickly. And the out is called. So the call is overturned. Rangers win that challenge. And again, a huge job getting the final out. Last inning it was a double play. This inning, a 7-2 put out as Will Venable shoots down Miguel Cabrera. After 4, Rangers 2-1.
Last night, I showed you the Coney Island, Lafayette, Coney, where the original chili dog was invented. That restaurant spawned a whole chain of restaurants in the Detroit area, and that's where we went for lunch today, called National Coney Island. Now, this doesn't just have hot dogs. It's got anything you want on the menu, a full diner menu at the National Coney Island. And so you go in there, and you can get anything you want to eat. I want to show you what I had for lunch. And you guys are going, wait a minute. You never eat just a salad for lunch. Let me show you what I had for dessert. Now, that may have to come after. No, there it is. There it is. I thought I might have to come after the next pitch. The hot fudge cream puff is what I had for dessert. And if I don't feel guilty enough for eating one of those myself, I corrupted our cameraman, Jeff Irwin, and made him eat one. So on the off day tomorrow when Fox Sports 1 has the game, guys, we'll be on the treadmill. You'll find all day, each of us. That hot fudge cream puff with the Saunders hot fudge, just like my mom used to make them, guys. It was awesome. Boy. Yeah, let's get back to you.
All right. Yeah, I got to tell you, John, I'm really impressed with you buying your dad that brick. That was great. That's one of the nicest, most touching things I've ever seen in a ballgame. That was tremendous.
Thank you, Buzz. Yeah, it was a real fun gesture and fun to have him here to enjoy it. And we've actually gone by and looked at it ourselves a couple of times, so I thought maybe we'd put it on TV, see if it worked. So
it's good
great
for
to
both
have
of you.
Here.
That's tremendous.
Thanks, Buzz.
Will Venable, who has been in everything the Rangers have done tonight, he has driven in. He drove in the first run with a double. He threw out Miguel Cabrera trying to score the first run for the Tigers last half inning. So making his presence felt here tonight, Will Venable. 2 balls, 2 strikes the count as he leads off here in the Ranger fifth. A 2-0 Ranger lead. Now 3-2. Now our AT&T U-verse rewind. Take you back to the last at bat. That was the 8th pitch of the at bat, the 9th pitch of the at bat. Will Venable with new life after that last pitch was very close. Drove it into the gap in left center and scored Elvis with the first run of the game. He's gone on strikes here as Verlander heated that one up a little bit. Strikeout number 6 for the Tiger right-hander. One gone for Bobby Wilson.
Well, Verlander went up to the top of that zone with a little bit of cheese Venable couldn't catch up to.
Yeah, Verlander gets a little head of steam going. He'll throw a lot of pitches up in that area that I don't think many guys can handle when he's throwing well.
No, it really looks good for the split second that you see it. And when all of a sudden you swing at it, you're like, how did I miss that? And it was already in the catcher's glove. That's how. It's going a lot faster than you realize when it's up there like that.
And you really see how tough he can be, Mac, I think, tonight when you see that high fastball coupled with his desire to throw that bigger curveball that starts in the same plane almost as the high fastball and breaks straight down. And that's got to be a devastating combination for guys to handle.
No, there's no question about it. And what makes it so difficult to hit, especially the curveball, that fastball that you just saw right there, Bobby Wilson couldn't get to that either, fouled it off. But that's a strike. That's at the top of the zone. Mm-hmm. It's tough to get up there and get it. And then he comes back with a breaking ball like I'm pretty sure he's going to do right now. It starts at that same plane. All of a sudden the bottom drops out and it's a strike or you swung at it.
Now that was the harder breaking ball. That was a slider. So and on top of everything else, he has a couple to choose from in that variety.
I mean, that's what makes it so difficult to hit a guy like this. When he can throw his secondary pitches for strikes and they're quality pitches, you can't eliminate a pitch at any point in time in that at bat.
1-2 the count. Now 2-2.
You know, from a hitter's standpoint, what you want to do is you want to try to eliminate pitches. If a pitcher has 4 pitches, he's not throwing the curveball or slider for a strike. Okay, you can throw those out of the window, and you start looking at the 2 that he is throwing for a strike. And if he can't throw 3, he's probably going to be in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Here's that bigger hook that was outside. So Verlander not able to induce a swing from Bobby Wilson. He got him down 0-2. Now it's gone 3-2. And Wilson trying to get aboard the top of the order, and Delano DeShields will follow. Verlander into the wind. The payoff pitch is on the way. Bobby Wilson down on strikes his first time up there. Bobby, of course, along with Chris Jimenez doing a great job since the trading deadline. Rangers had to bring in 2 new catchers. Robinson Chirinos and Carlos Corporan both had to go on the disabled list. Another 3-2 pitch. And another foul ball. Bobby Wilson came over from the Rays on a waiver claim. He had batted just 145 with Tampa Bay. 25 games down there. Again, Verlander to the plate. And another chopper foul. Well, Bobby Wilson making life a little bit tougher on Justin Verlander in this at bat.
Running that pitch count up there. 84 pitches so far. This will be number 85.
Again, Verlander. And this one popped up. Avila off with the mask, coming back, has room, and makes the catch right by the Tigers on deck circle. That is out number 2. It'll bring up Delino DeShields. No, a 9-pitch at bat, and hitters talk about productive outs. Well, that was a productive at bat that resulted in an out, in that almost 10 pitches to get Verlander. Oh, wow. Yeah. He's been working on that, I guess, huh?
I guess 2 hands does help.
Nah. Here's DeShields, who bunted his way aboard last time up. Takes strike 1 from Verlander. Delino now 10 bunt base hits. That's the most in the American League. And adding another little wrinkle with looked like a straight changeup. 0-2. Delino at 261 with the average as he faces Verlander. On base percentage in the mid 350s. Well, the Ranger leadoff man. 0-2 pitch. 1-2. And again, facing Verlander, you do the best you can to work the counts, but Delino DeShields has really been able to work the counts lately to everybody. He's still right at the top for the Rangers with base on balls. He's tied with Shin-Soo Choo with 16 walks since the All-Star break. So he is settling in nicely to be a very good Major League leadoff man. Check swing, the pitch just outside, and he appealed down to first. Vic Carapazza said, no swing, 2-2.
Yeah, but I like what he's doing. He's working the count. He's at 4 pitches now, going to go on his 5th pitch. Getting the walks, taking the walks, and then with Chu doing the same thing right behind him. A lot of scoring opportunities for this ball club, and it's one reason they've been scoring so many, because you've got the top 2 guys in the lineup getting on base consistently.
Called strike 3. Ogling that one that caught the bottom of the strike zone, and Delino is gone. Rangers gone in order. They have now retired 9 straight as Justin Verlander. Halfway through the ball game, the Rangers leading 2-0. Fans 14 and older will get a Giovanni Gallardo powder blue t-shirt thanks to Dr. Pepper, Albertsons, and Tom Thumb. Visit TexasRangers.com or you can call 972-RANGERS to secure your tickets. Take you back to the 70s for that giveaway. Colby Lewis going to work, deals a strike in at the knees to Alex Avila. It'll be Avila, Jose Iglesias, and Anthony Gose to face the Ranger right-hander. Colby has allowed 4 hits, but he has kept the Tigers off the board with a couple of good pitches and defensive plays behind him.
Yeah, he's definitely had some help, and that's what it's about. It's a team sport, so let him make contact. Hopefully they're going to hit it right at somebody. And, you know, he's worked himself out of a couple of jams, made pitches when he needed to make them.
Check swing and gone on strikes. Alex Avila, 3 pitches, and he is going back to the bench. That is the first strikeout for Colby Lewis tonight, which tells you that the Tigers have not let him get deep into counts very often.
No, they really haven't. Colby with a nice breaking ball down and in like he always throws to left-handers. That looks so good. They all swing at it.
That's right. Well, that's part of that fastball slider combination we talked about, Mac. He has been just lights out as far as painting that back foot slider to left-handers and down and away to right-handers. He has really been good. Our Ford leaderboard, and not walking people, too, which is a strong suit for Colby. 4th lowest walk rate in the American League. That 171 walks per 9 innings.
Wow.
Phil Hughes with less than 1 per 9, but that's there's some pretty good pitchers on that list. Burley, Kluber, David Price, Colby. Beltre cuts it off. Has trouble getting it out of the glove, and it's too late to get the speedy Jose Iglesias. Adrian just couldn't reach into the glove and get the handle, and Iglesias aboard with an infield hit.
Colby gets Iglesias off balance, and Beltre comes over, just can't get the handle on it. Iglesias beats it out.
Yeah, that's a shame. That was a very good pitch, and Colby got exactly what he wanted. 1 on, 1 out. Here's Anthony Gose, who was hit by a pitch. His first time. He takes outside for ball 1. Looks like Adrian coming out of the glove with that ball in hand, realized he didn't have a good grip on the ball, huh?
Right. He had it, you know, between looked like between his 4 fingers. So you've got to have at least 3 on the ball, and 3 fingers in that thumb in order to guide it.
1-1 to Gose. And really, that's a pretty veteran move not to make a throw like that when you don't have the good grip.
Right. You'll have some guys, you know, try and throw that ball anyway, and it'll be a flutter ball into the dugout or into the stands.
Now, Gose taking a while to get back in. Colby was set to go, and Gose wasn't ready. 1-1 the count. Took something off the breaking ball. Colby out in front. Well, they're going to rule that an error. They just changed that. An error on Adrian Beltre on that last play. Well, we mentioned Adrian just 1 error in his last 21 games, now 2 in his last 22. 2-2 the count. Colby up to just 60 pitches as he works with 1 out here in the 5th inning. 41 strikes, 19 balls. That is pretty typical Colby Lewis fare. Got him swinging. Foul tip into Bobby Wilson's glove. Strikeout number 2. And with 2 away, now Ian Kinsler will come up again. And before Kinsler gets to the plate, let's send it back to Dana Larson for another Mazda game break. All right, Dan, thank you. Pitchers can't hit. Come on.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it. I let you say it. You're right.
Well, got Bumgarner and Greinke. That's about it.
That is about it.
And Kinsler lofts a fly ball to center. That is playable. Delino to Shields. Ambling over to his left, makes the catch, and that will do it. So Colby able to work around the Beltre error. One left to board. We're going to the sixth. Rangers 2, Tigers nothing. Brought to you by Sonic. Tonight's jackpot is worth $600 and dinner for two at Sonic Drive-In. If a Ranger hits a home run during this inning, Robert King from Wiley will win $600. And if a Ranger hits a grand slam during the inning, Robert is going to pocket $25,000. You can register at any participating Sonic restaurant. Robert, you got the right guys coming up. How about Shin-Soo Choo, Prince Fielder, Adrian Beltre, the first three in the Sonic slam inning. Choo 0 for 1 tonight, a walk and a strikeout. Rangers 2 runs on 3 hits and 1 error. And the Tigers, no runs, 4 hits and 2 errors. Rangers getting single runs in the second and the third. The run in the third unearned. And Colby Lewis has been able to make that stand up through 5. 0-1 pitch from Verlander. Back into the seats. Over the Tigers dugout. 0-2. Choo settling back in. His overall on-base percentage this year approaching 34%. Came in at .338. That's up a tick or two. 1 ball, 2 strikes now. Jeff Bannister was mentioning today, someone asked about whether Choo and Rougned Odor are pretty much interchangeable in that second spot. He said, no, right now Choo is a little better equipped because of his on-base percentage alone to hit second. But he said, you know, eventually you can see having either one of those guys in that number 2 spot. He said later on this year, probably into next year, you might have more of a case to let Choo get down and more of a run-producing spot in the order. He said right now Choo is the guy for that number 2 spot behind the Shields.
Yeah, and like you said, it can change, but right now Choo's the better one at it. And having that production down lower in the batting order is what you really need right now.
Now Choo rung up on that check swing. Third base umpire Ron Kulpa threw up that right fist, and Choo strikes out for the second time tonight. That is 8 punch-outs for Verlander. A 1 gone Prince Fielder, and hear the smattering of boos. This is what Choo was a little upset about. That
wow.
Yeah. Fielder 0 for 1 tonight, but he does have a sacrifice fly that drove in his 70th run of the year back in the third inning. 1 ball, no strikes. Chu not real thrilled about it, shaking his head, and you can understand why. He was called out on strikes in the third inning on a relatively close pitch. 1 ball and 1 strike now to Prince. Fielder still tied with Ian Kinsler atop the American League with 47 multiple hit games. Is fouled back to our left, and the count moves to 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Verlander's done a pretty good job of staying out of the middle of the plate to Prince. I won't quite say he's nibbling because he's hitting the spots that he wants to hit away.
They're the multiple hit leaders. Talking about both of them with 47 multi-hit games. Nelson Cruz kind of a distant second with 43, or distant third, I should say, with 43. Big breaking ball, and that one fouled down. Avila trying to show it to Brian Knight that he might have caught it.
Look at the two of them having a little bit of fun with each other.
Two pretty good competitors going after each other. Another 1-2 pitch coming. 2 balls and 2 strikes. I don't know about you, Mac, but that's the one thing, the only thing I think I missed about playing days. I didn't miss the conditioning or any of that stuff. Just that one-on-one matchup that you get, pitcher and hitter.
Love the competition. That's what it's all about for me. Loved it every single day.
Castellanos, the third baseman, across the diamond. That is out number 2. Well, while we have a second here, we'll take a look at our Coors Light Cold Hard Fact for you this evening. Rangers, the 4th team in Major League history with 2 players having 300-plus home runs, and at least 1 other player with 200-plus home runs. Beltre, of course, with 406. Prince Fielder, 305. And Mike Napoli hit his 200th the other day at home. Now, the Cold Hard Fact brought to you by Clean Crisp Coors Light. But yeah, that part of the competition, that's the one you can take the wind sprints and all that stuff. And
didn't like those, huh?
No. Beltre shoots one in the air to center. Anthony Gose ambling over to his left, makes the catch, and that will do it. So Justin Verlander has a 1-2-3 inning. He is now retired 12 consecutive Rangers. After 5.5, Rangers leading the Tigers 2-0. Well, folks, you still have time to get a Fan's Choice 20 game plan for the 2015 season. 20 game plans come with great benefits, like the chance to purchase 2015 postseason strips and savings off of gate prices, plus a lot more. Visit TexasRangers.com/20 game plans to get yours today, but don't wait. Last chance to buy is August 25th. Tyler Collins leading off the bottom of the 6th inning against Colby Lewis. Colby very quickly out in front of the count. No balls, 2 strikes. It'll be Collins, Cabrera, and Victor Martinez here for the Tigers. Very important inning for Colby Lewis. His pitch count very modest, just 65 pitches so far, and starting to get back into the meat of the order for the 3rd time. Collins, a line drive to right, coming on Chu, and a sliding catch for the out. Oh, nice jump by Shin-Soo Choo. Looked like he had it under control all the way and went into that little slide to make the grab.
Very nice catch by Chu. Great jump coming in on that ball. That's not an easy ball to make a play on. You've got to get a good jump. If you don't, you're going to have to pull up and catch it on bounce. But he stayed right with it. Very nice play.
And Chu, of course, very sensitive to the ecology out there. Just had to replace his divot before he went back to his position. Thank you very much.
Nicely done.
So one very big out. That brings Miguel Cabrera to the plate with nobody on base. He takes a strike. It is 0-2. And that's important because the Ranger lead is 2 runs. You bring Cabrera up with somebody on, and he represents the tying run. That makes it a little more dicey. Cabrera 1 out of 2 with a double. He was thrown out trying to score from second. And Nick Castellanos single with 2 outs in the 4th inning. Will Venable nailing him at the plate, and that preserved the shutout to this point. To right field, that is up that alley. Chu over to cut it off, and he can't. It's to the wall. Cabrera will cruise into second with his 2nd consecutive double. One to left center, one to right center. You talk about gap power. There it is.
That's just great hitting. I mean, Colby hit his spot, wanted to go away. He's been going away all night with that fastball slider combination. You see Bobby Wilson set up out there. Throws it right to the glove. Cabrera just shoots it into the right center field gap. 2nd double on the night. That's just great hitting. Take 2, go to right.
Yep. Or left, whatever you want to do. Or right center, left center. Something else. No, the only difference between this and the 4th inning now is that Victor Martinez is up with 1 out. Colby still has that first base open, and Victor trying to kind of ambush Colby on that first pitch fastball. Miguel Cabrera, we were talking about this back in the pregame, 67 career games against the Rangers. And those numbers, well, video game would be proud to have those numbers. They're associated with it. 384 lifetime average against the Rangers.
Had a couple of more extra base hits on those numbers there.
Martinez pulling the trigger a bit early, pulls it foul. It's 0-2. And we talk about him wearing the Rangers pitching staff out. That's true for most of the pitching staffs around the league. Yeah, there are very few that he doesn't hit like that against.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just he's picking on the Rangers. Believe me, he's picking on everybody in the league. He's just that good.
Cabrera playing around with Elvis out there trying to get a jump. 1 ball, 2 strikes now. Victor Martinez has hit the ball sharply to center field. And those are career numbers for Miguel Cabrera. 322 lifetime average, 406 home runs, 1,428 RBI, the most RBI by a Venezuelan-born major league player. Another shot foul. This one off the screen in front of the Ranger dugout. Still 1-2.
406 home runs in 13 seasons. It's a pretty good pace.
Yeah, a little bit over 30. He's not finished with this season yet. Now Bobby Wilson out to talk to Colby Lewis momentarily, see what the veteran right-hander might have in mind for Victor Martinez. Meanwhile, a couple of Venezuelan natives out there. Elvis Andrus and Miguel Cabrera jawing at each other.
I wonder which one talks the most.
Well, probably because I know Elvis better, I would put my money on him, but maybe not.
I don't know. And I don't know. I can't. They probably don't know what one another is saying because they're both talking.
That's true. That's a good point. Alan Trammell, first base coach, keeping an eye on things. In the dirt, nice block by Bobby Wilson. The count evens at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Victor Martinez, as we mentioned last night, a better hitter average-wise from the right side by far, about 150 points better. Left-handed, he came into the game hitting at .213. Right-handed, .368. Rangers have the overshift on with Rougned Odor playing the rover position out there in right field. Cabrera away from second. The 2-2 pitch. Right at Odor. He's going to double off Cabrera. And Elvis got him. He got back to the bag and dove to tag the bag. And Cabrera doubled off on the line drive to Odor. How about that? Second double play turn behind Colby. This a little bit more unconventional. Now that will do it. They are going to have to hold it here for a second. It's Brad Ausmus. And Brad Ausmus is going to issue the challenge. So he wasn't convinced that Elvis got back to tag the bag to complete the double play. And Cabrera down on a knee out there. He's going to wait and see what happens. But the line drive to the out for the out at second. Odor getting it to Elvis, and Elvis get it back there. I don't know. Second base umpire Adam Hamari right on top of it. Now, did Elvis get back and touch the bag?
Maybe not. So
the headsets come out again. Rangers had one turned over in their favor earlier tonight. We'll see if this one stands or whether Brad Ausmus is able to get one in his fortune. Well, again, the crew chief, Ron Culpa, one of the headset wearers over there, along with Adam Hamari, the second base umpire, hooked up to Replay Command Center in New York. They will look at all the different angles of this play at second, come up with a determination whether the call on the field stands, whether the out call stands and a double play, or whether the Tigers have life here in the 6th inning with Cabrera safe at second and 2 away. Cabrera messing around back out there with Elvis Andrus at second. That jawed at each other. And he kind of got a little further away from the bag than he would have liked, I would assume.
Yeah, that's always was a difficult thing for me to break up my concentration by talking to the umpire or the second baseman or shortstop, anybody out there. I had to really focus because just a little bit can throw you off. So, hey, he might have been on the bag when he caught the ball. Might have kicked it a little bit.
Getting a few more angles up on the big screen out here at Comerica Park. Huge video screen out in left field. That giant Tiger scoreboard out there, and it's feeding the entire house. And people getting, they get riled up one moment, and then the next moment they kind of calm down after they see a different angle.
That's what's so good about all the angles that you get.
Yeah.
Look at that one right there. He might be on the bag right there.
Could be
when he initially catches the ball.
Could be. And then the question after we watch that, this is the one we were talking about. Now, if his toe is on the bag, but then the question is when he comes off toward first base, why did he reach back with his foot? Did he not know that he was on the bag? I don't know. But they'll have to determine that in New York. It's out of our hands here. And then the dive back, which is where Adam Hamari made the call of out finally. So we'll see. And again, the umpires listening very intently as the folks in New York go over it. And they will issue the ruling, and it has to be clear and convincing evidence to overturn the call on the field, which is out.
So that brings up an interesting point. If he didn't make the call until the second half of the play, and his foot was on there, didn't make a call, which portion of that are they challenging?
You know, the call itself, and
wow.
I would assume it's the whole play. I don't think they could take, okay, he wasn't on the bag there, but he was there. You know, I think it's just if he touched the bag at all. Colby's going back out and going to grab a ball and throw a few pitches just to stay loose. So Colby convinced that there's better than even chance that it won't be an out. It won't be a double play. There's going to be 2 outs at the very least. And the crowd, again, another angle that they saw on the video board, they got all excited about.
Hopefully Colby's just doing that just to stay loose, just in case.
Yeah.
This would be an interesting decision here.
No, it'll make a difference. Miguel Cabrera looking up that big scoreboard along with Brad Ausmus on the right of your screen. Ron Culpa, the crew chief, front and center. And Adam Hamari, the umpire who made the call, out at second. The other gentleman under the headsets.
Wow. They've got a lot to talk about in this one.
Sure do. Now in New York, again, they can get those frames blown up, magnified, and take a look at them that way. They can also do a timing feature where they're synced so that you get 2 angles that are synced time-wise with each other. It looks like we're going to have a decision here shortly. Headsets coming off, and the call is out at second. So I would assume that call's going to stand, not be confirmed. So it'll be a double play. It goes 4-6, and Cabrera is erased. The 6th inning has come to a close, and the call does stand. And Brad Ausmus on the verge of getting himself tossed because you can't question once the replay has been viewed. And there it is.
There he goes.
Ausmus asked a question, and you can't do it. And he knows that. Ron Culpa trying to tell him you can't question it at all. Ausmus continued, and Culpa ejected it. So that's going to do it. Ausmus will watch the rest of it from the Tiger clubhouse. We're going to the 7th. Rangers still leading 2-0. A review that took 4 minutes and 57 seconds. That's the longest one we've had all year. Going back to last year, the longest we've had. But It turned out in the Rangers' favor, so the Rangers come to bat here in the 7th, still leading 2-0. And Mitch Moreland starting things off, takes high for ball 1. Gene Lamont in the middle of your picture there will no doubt take over as the skipper, the acting skipper. Gene, long time Tiger assistant. 1-0 to Mitch. Now 1-1. Moreland is struck out and grounded out tonight. 0 for 2. Rangers haven't had a base runner since Delino DeShields led off the 3rd inning with a bunt single. Verlander's retired the last 12 that he has faced. And Moreland rounding it into the shift. That'll be Castellanos, the 3rd baseman, to make the play. 0-1 gone. Let's take a look at our 4-game summary. All things got started as Will Venable, a double to the gap, knocked in Elvis Andrus with the first run. There's the bunt we were talking about. Leading off, Delino DeShields, and then the errant throw as Verlander tried to pick him off. That got Delino to 3rd, for where Prince Fielder drove him home, the sacrifice fly. And that is the sum total of the scoring tonight. 2 runs for the Rangers very early against Verlander. 2 runs on 3 hits. And Colby Lewis has made them stand up. Here's Elvis, who scored that first run. 1 for 2. 1 ball, no strikes.
You got Verlander still out there about to throw his 107th pitch. And he's still bringing the heat. And 111 pitches in his last outing.
Fires that in for a strike. It is 1-1. Tom Gorzelani, the left-hander, and Al Albuquerque, the right-hander. Of course, the Tiger bullpen got the night off last night. Complete game shutout. And Elvis, a base hit down the left field line. That's going for extra bases. Playing it off the sidewall. Collins hits the ball back in. And Elvis Andrus, a 1-out double, his 2nd hit of the night, is in scoring position for Rougned Odor.
Well, Elvis has been looking for that fastball inside all night long. And he finally got it in the 7th inning and didn't miss it.
Yep.
There it is. And he kept that baby fair. Castellanos playing way off the line. No chance to get that ball.
Well, the 4th hit of the night for the Rangers. That snaps a 13 consecutive hitter retired streak by Verlander. Elvis now in scoring position. Rougned Odor 0 for 2 with a ground out and a pop out. See if Elvis tries to get a jump on Verlander, maybe get himself over to 3rd. Ron Cope with the appeal. He's no swing. 1 ball, no strikes.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if Elvis tries to take 3rd with 1 out already. It wouldn't be the first out at 3rd base, but you got Castellanos playing in and over off the line. Now he backed up just a little bit to get in that baseline. So, but Elvis still may get that jump, especially if Verlander continues to do the high leg kick.
Drive to right field. J.D. Martinez retreats, makes the catch. Elvis tagging at 2nd, trying to go to 3rd. The throw, they got it. J.D. Martinez with his 14th outfield assist. Gets Elvis at 3rd. And that's the final out, guys. You don't need any more in this inning. That's number 3. The double play, 9-5. What a throw by J.D. Martinez. The Rangers' 7th comes to an end. No runs, 1 hit, nobody left as J.D. Martinez guns down Elvis Andrus. We'll take the stretch in Detroit. Rangers leading 2-0. Strongest fan photo, and this comes to us from Julie. Well, that's a great picture. Nice going. Good looking garb for the pooch. We appreciate that. If you folks would like to send in your pictures, just use hashtag Southwest Data Strong Fan. Your photo might be selected to be aired during one of our upcoming broadcasts. All brought to you by the good folks at T-Mobile. Well, Colby Lewis starting the bottom of the 7th inning. J.D. Martinez, who threw out Elvis Andrus at third base as Elvis tried to tag in advance on a line drive to right. J.D. Martinez with his 14th outfield assist of the year. Down to the count, 0-2 to Colby. 1 ball, 2 strikes. All right, Colby. I think economical is an understatement of what Colby's done here tonight. He's working in the 7th inning, and his pitch total still under 80. His next pitch will be the 80th, but very nice job by the veteran right-hander. Couldn't get J.D. Martinez to offer at it. It's 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Yeah, he's only had 1 3-ball count all night long, so he's been very economical around the plate, so the Tigers know they have to swing.
J.D. has grounded out and flied to right field. Colby to the wind, the 2-2. That's out of play. We'll come back and try it again. Colby working on another walkless streak. He has had 7 walkless outings this year. That's the 9th most in the major leagues and the 4th most in the American League. A little bit low. The count has gone full. And our inning by inning count for Colby, you see nothing to indicate any kind of overexertion in one particular frame. Payoff pitch up the middle, a base hit for J.D. Martinez. Well, Colby was not going to issue the free pass. Martinez got a pitch in the middle of the plate and single to center to lead off the Rangers 7th. And before Nick Castellanos steps in, let's send it back to Dana Larson for a Mazda game break. All right, Dana, thank you. Here the Rangers leading 2-0 over the Tigers. J.D. Martinez at first. Nick Castellanos takes a strike. Castellanos singled his last time up. He is 1 for 2 this evening. Tigers now with 6 hits against Colby Lewis. Colby, a belt high set. 1 ball and 1 strike. Rangers playing Castellanos around to the left a couple of steps. Mike Maddox and Jeff Bannister keeping a very close eye on the proceedings here this evening. See Rougned Odor shading toward the bag at second. Adrian playing back and off the line at third. And that one rolled just outside the bag. 1-2 now. Castellanos now in his career is 1 for 6 against Colby. Colby has had at least 1 base runner in each of the last 5 innings now. Sent the first 6 Tigers down in order. And then Alex Avila led off the 3rd with a base hit, and there have been base runners ever since. But no runs crossing home plate. Double play ground ball. Elvis to Odor. Back to Moreland. 3rd double play of the night. Perfect tailor-made rocket right at Elvis for the twin killing.
Well, nice pitch by Colby again, making pitches when he needs to make them. Staying away from Castellanos, who goes outside with a slider. Hits that spot. Castellanos is out in front of it. Nice little 2-hopper to Elvis. 1-hopper to Elvis. Picks it. Nice little flip over to Odor. Double play. 3rd one of the night.
I guess the only question of whether that was going to be a double play was whether Elvis could hang on to it. It was hit so hard.
That was about it.
Once he did, there was no doubt. No, base is empty, 2 away for Avila. Alex Avila had that third inning single. He's also struck out 1 out of 2 tonight. And Colby misses with a changeup. 1-1. Very comfortable night here in Detroit. Temperature in the mid-70s. Not a breath of breeze blowing now. It has calmed down, and crystal clear night. Crowd in shirt sleeves. Rangers on top, 2-0. Colby a little irritated with himself after that pitch got away from him. 3-1 to Avila. If Avila continues this inning, Jose Iglesias, the shortstop, will follow him. Now the Rangers go into the overshift. Elvis with a 3-1 count, moving on the second base side of second. And Colby issues his first walk. 2-out pass puts Alex Avila aboard and will bring up Iglesias.
Colby's probably not happy with that sequence there, but he's not going to let it get to him. He knows he's got one more out to get.
Now, I bet if you talk to Colby after the ball game, whatever happens, he's going to say, I should not have walked Avila.
That's going to be the one he focuses on. Absolutely.
Iglesias steps in 0 for 2. He has grounded out, reached on an error. 1 ball, no strikes. Iglesias a 3.04 average as he bats here in the bottom of the 7th. And Colby drops that one in. 1-1. Keone Keller loosening in the Ranger bullpen in support of Colby Lewis. Next pitch to Iglesias. 2 balls and a strike. And 3-1 as Colby missed with the breaking ball. Well, Colby trying to protect that 2-0 lead. Gave up the 2-out walk to Avila. Trying to be a little careful with Iglesias down at the bottom of the order, but he's fallen behind now 3-1. If he loses Iglesias, you have Anthony Ghost, the center fielder, in that on-deck circle. Lewis sets at the belt. The 3-1 pitch. In the air to center field. That is not going anywhere tonight. Delino to Shields there to capture it, and that will do it. No runs. 1 hit, 1 left. We're going to the 8th inning in Detroit. It's the Rangers 2, the Tigers nothing. Energy power player. And how about Will Venable? Driving in the first run of the ball game. His first hit as a Ranger brought home Elvis Andrus. Put the Rangers on top 1-0. Then a very big play defensively. Able to charge the ball and throw out Miguel Cabrera trying to score with 2 outs. And he is shot down at home plate. So Will Venable, our TXU Energy power player tonight. And Will Venable will start off things for the Rangers here in the 8th inning. And they will not be facing Justin Verlander. Verlander out after 7 innings of work, and he gives way to the veteran left-hander Tom Gorzolani, a 32-year-old, make that 33 he just turned. 38, 7 games, 1-2 his record, a 5.97 ERA. Opponents hitting .313 against the left-hander who has spent his entire career prior to this year in the National League. And Venable needs that sidearm slant from Gorzolani, come in for strike 1. Gorzolani broke in with the Pirates back in 2005. Spent the next 5 years with Pittsburgh, then went over to the Cubs. Spent a couple of years in Washington, and then the last 2 years with the Brewers. Venable had that RBI double. He is 1 for 2 this evening. And Gorzolani back with a fastball. And Al Albuquerque and Lane Hardy in that Tiger bullpen. Venable 1 for 7 lifetime against Gorzolani from his National League days. Hits it well to center. That chases Ghost back, but he has room, and Venable is out number 1. Now the Tiger bullpen has really been a spot of trouble for Detroit all year long. You see the July figure of 6.25, that ERA, and it's been better in August, but that has really been the crux of the problem for the Tigers. They were not scoring very well, and bullpen just couldn't be trusted late. Gene Lamont out to take the ball from Gorzolani, so he's asked to get one hitter, and he does. And he will depart. Pitching change underway here at Comerica Park. Rangers on top 2-0. We're back right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. The 29-year-old from Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic on to take over here. He becomes the third pitcher used by the Tigers tonight. Albuquerque will face Bobby Wilson. And he pounds the first pitch high and deep down the left field line. Long run over for Collins in foul territory. He can't get it. It is off the railing, and Bobby Wilson Gave that ball a pretty good ride, but he'll come back with a count of 0-1.
Bobby jumping on that first pitch that he sees from Albuquerque. Just foul.
Tyler Collins almost ran over there and got a face full of ball on that ricochet. Ball went right by his head as it bounced back out toward the warning track. 0-1 to Wilson. Now 1-1. Albuquerque, a tall, slender right-hander, appearing in his 56th ball game. He has been a favorite here in Detroit as far as numbers of games. He has pitched a lot over the last several years. Always been in the bullpen. He has not had a major league start to his credit. Appeared in 72 games last year for the Tigers. And that pitch in the dirt. It is 3-1 to Wilson. This is Albuquerque's 5th year at the big league level with Detroit. He is ready to work. Wilson waiting. Bobby was not going to be late on that fastball.
No. He was a little early. Better early than late on the 3-1 Peter, that's for sure.
Albuquerque, a fastball slider pitcher. Keeps it pretty simple, comes right at hitters. And Wilson, fighting to stay alive, fouls it back. Still 3-2. Well, Bobby trying to get aboard here in the Ranger 8th inning. The top of the order, Delino to Shields in the on-deck circle. And another tapper foul. Seems like Bobby Wilson has a deep count. At least tonight he's had a deep count every time he's gotten up there.
Well, he's done his fair share of making this Tigers pitching staff throw pitches, Verlander in particular.
And all we have to do is ask. Our crack production crew comes up with the answer.
Look at that.
How about that? 19 pitches so far. And that's going to break his bat. And maybe the 20th pitch that he's seen tonight goes into the seats. No, another bat, another weapon for Bobby Wilson. Yeah, the one thing you notice, I think, both Chris Jimenez and Bobby Wilson, is their enthusiasm for their position. They are full of energy. And you can understand that, you know, getting an opportunity to kind of set up a tag team at the big league level. That's going to get anybody a little quicker in their step. Inside, and Wilson draws the walk. There you go.
Nice job.
So Albuquerque with the walk. Got tired after 9 pitches. So here, Gene Lamont not particularly thrilled. One on for Delino to Shields, who is 1 for 3. Delino, that bunt single that led to a run for the Rangers in the 3rd inning. That was the 2nd run. That's the last run that has been scored tonight. Albuquerque drops in that slider for strike 1. Delino now with the batting average at an even 260. Down on the count here, no balls, 2 strikes. This is the last American League team that the Rangers had to face this year. Tigers, the only American League team the Rangers had not faced up to this point. So the education for Delino to Shields as far as pitchers from American League teams will be completed after this time through.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. It took them, this long to play one another.
Yeah.
Typically, you'll see it maybe after the All-Star break or something like that, but we're almost at the end of August here. First time they've seen one another.
The Tigers will come down to Globe Life Park for the next to last series of the year. That pitch off the glove of Avila, back to the screen. So down to second goes Bobby Wilson. And Wilson now in scoring position for DeShields. A wild pitch charged to Al Albuquerque.
A little too hot for Al.
So Wilson at second. Avila out there to talk to Albuquerque to see what how they want to go about the series of signs, what they're going to use. Count of 1 ball and 2 strikes to DeShields. Delano's numbers with runners in scoring position a little bit better than his overall average. Got him swinging. Albuquerque coming on that devastating slider, gets the strikeout there, 2 gone. Well, folks, tomorrow MLB returns on Fox Sports 1 with another doubleheader. The Giants take on the wild card leading Pirates. That's followed by your Rangers battling the Tigers. Coverage begins at 2:30 in the afternoon. The Rangers-Tiger game begins at 6 p.m. right here on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. You know, Albuquerque got the strikeout. Now with the left-handed hitting Chu coming up, Hardy is coming in. So another pitching change underway at Comerica Park. Rangers leading 2-0. We're back right after this. Rangers, one more game here, or I should say 2 more games here after tonight, tomorrow and on Sunday, then back home to enjoy an off day before taking on the Toronto Blue Jays and the Baltimore Orioles to finish out the month of August. Rangers then go on the road for a 10-game trip. Blaine Hardy, a 28-year-old left-hander, now facing Shin-Soo Choo with Bobby Wilson at second and 2 outs here in the Ranger 8th inning. Rangers leading 2-0, looking for some insurance. Chu 0 for 2, a couple of strikeouts and a walk. And Hardy dropping in that big breaking ball. Hardy from the Seattle, Washington area, 55th appearance of the year. He has been a mainstay of that Tiger bullpen. Came up for his first taste of Major League action last year. Appeared in 38 ball games here in Detroit. Fastball misses. 1-2 the count. Hardy fastball, slider, curveball. And he will mix in an occasional changeup. Has Chu down in the hole. And Shin-Soo able to lay off that big breaking curveball. 2-2.
It's a tough pitch to lay off of, especially for a left-hander. Chu is one of the best I've ever seen at waiting until the last possible second to swing or take one.
Hardy, a check of Wilson back at second base. And the topper foul. Is that something you can develop, or is that just a God-given ability to be able to wait and wait?
I think that's a God-given ability, because he'll be in there and you just know he's going to start his swing, and all of a sudden he just doesn't do anything. I've not seen anybody like that ever.
Hardy with a long look in, and now Chu tired of waiting, so he asked for time. So you can't, in other words, go to spring training and say, I'm gonna take a longer look at stuff. Chu gone. Now another disappointing end to an at bat for Shin-Soo Choo. The Rangers get a walk with Strander runner after 7.5 remains. The Rangers 2, the Tigers nothing on Fox Sports Southwest.
On a beautiful night for baseball here at Comerica Park in Detroit, and the series will continue tomorrow. It'll just continue without us. It'll be on Fox Sports 1, and AT&T Uverse wants to remind you of that because the game is tomorrow, and what a great matchup this continues to be. Adrian Beltre against Miguel Cabrera, two of the best hitters in all of baseball, and it'll be tomorrow at 6 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. Check your local listings for where you can find Fox Sports 1 for Game 3 of this series, guys.
All right, John, thank you. Well, Colby Lewis night has closed out a 7-inning appearance for Colby and a 7-inning shutout appearance for Colby. And Keone Kela, 22-year-old right-hander, now appearing in his 55th game of the year for the Rangers. And facing Anthony Gose. That ball skipping into the crowd right over the Tigers' dugout. 0-2 the count to Gose. Gose hit by a pitch tonight and struck out 0 for 1 officially. He is going to wait to get back into the batter's box as he looks over to the folks right behind the Tiger dugout. Obviously a lot of concern on his face. That's got to be a terrible feeling, Mac. Not having experienced that myself, but watching guys that foul a pitch off and someone gets in the way of it.
It is, and I've done it quite a few times. I've even got a broken nose on my record. An usher in Anaheim. He just turned around right at the wrong time and got him right in the face. And
oh boy,
it wasn't pretty. It's not a good feeling when you're out there and you do that. Obviously it's not intentional.
Right.
but you still feel bad about it.
Well, there's been so much discussion, especially this year, about extending the screens down over the dugouts, at least up several feet anyway, to protect the folks that sit right behind the dugouts. That seems to be the area there where there's just no chance to react to a foul ball.
There really isn't. There's obviously screens right behind home plate, and to me, it's really not any difference when you go 10, 15, 20 feet further to your left or right. You still have no chance to react.
Right. Cabrera, Martinez trying to see what's going on up there. The natural curiosity I takes over, and then all of a sudden you see exactly what's going on. You really don't want to know. A lot of concern, though, as there always is in a situation like this. And Anthony Ghost not going to step back in the batter's box, and not until things are taken care of. Brian Knight, home plate umpire, making sure that nothing is done until the person who was hit is tended to. Now, one thing about it, almost all ballparks now have, or all ballparks do have, great EMT services of somebody standing by immediately just for a case like this, where they get to the person that's hurt as quickly as possible and tend to them as well as they can.
Yeah, it didn't really used to be that way. Typically, you'd see the trainer, the team come out
right
and try and give some assistance. But it's great to have the EMTs in every ballpark. They get there quickly, and they've got somebody that's got experience dealing with these kind of things.
And it seems like, too, the ushers and usherettes have all been trained at least to recognize when they need the assistance very quickly.
Right.
So there's no delay in getting somebody that's qualified down there to help them out. You can see the location of that right over the nearest point of the Tiger dugout to home plate, and about 15 feet beyond where the tall screen ends. So not much of a chance on that foul ball off the bat of Ghost. It's just a redirected fastball is what it is. You don't take a swing and have it pop up in the air. It's just redirecting the fastball at an odd angle, and it gets on you so quickly. It's going in the 90-mile-an-hour range when it gets over there to you.
Right. First of all, you're not expecting it anyway. Even if you're watching the game, you're not expecting the ball to come right to you, especially that quickly. And most people tend to freeze. And even if you don't, everybody's going to move one way or another. It's more than likely going to hit somebody anyway.
Right. A lot of concern on Ranger faces. Hanser Alberto and Josh Hamilton there. J.D. Martinez and Miguel Cabrera. You can see the concern on play, and this is not manufactured concern. This is just the empathy for what the fans must be going through at that point in time, and the concern about their well-being. Genuine concern by the players.
Right. I think if you take a poll of the players and ask them if they prefer that screen up there, I think they would all say yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and not just for the foul balls, too. We've seen enough broken bats now that have flown into the stands, and that jagged edges. That that to me, that's posing almost as big a threat now with the way the bats break as the foul balls.
It really does, because everybody wants a bat, so they think until it comes flying up there, and they get themselves in the way, thinking they're going to catch a bat, and it's not quite that simple.
Again, the delay here, person hit by that foul ball, they're tending to them, and it looks like their EMTs are asking for some stretcher support. Mitch Moreland, Alan Trammell down there at first base talking about things. Again, very grim looks on everybody's faces. Ian Kinsler and Anthony Ghost kneeling in that on-deck circle. I'm sure each player in his own mind sending out thoughts and prayers to the person who was hit by that foul ball. Well, it's going to be a few more minutes, I think, before we can get a resolution to this. They're still working down there very diligently to make that person comfortable and to attend to them as best they can. We'll take a break. We'll come back to Comerica Park right after this on Fox Sports Southwest. Right over the Tigers dugout, skipped into and injured a fan, and still tending, the EMTs tending to the fan and trying to, looks like get a neck board or a backboard down there to strap them onto to be able to transport them out of the way. Tigers and Rangers all kind of gathered at their spots where they were when the foul ball occurred, and obvious signs of concern on everybody's faces. And looks like it's a woman that was hit and appears to be conscious in a neck brace of some sort. Again, getting the quickest and best care possibly afforded to her was. And Anthony Gose, who hit the foul ball, that the look on his face tells it all. Concern, boy. And also Miguel Cabrera and J.D. Martinez and everybody viewing this, both dugouts. Cole Hamels, Ryan Strasburg, Derek Holland, and the lady now will be carried up in the sitting position and tended to upstairs. So terrible thing to have happen. Fortunately, it looks like she is at least conscious, and they felt confident enough to be able to take her up out of that position.
Yeah, that's going to leave a bad feeling in a lot of guys' stomachs tonight. That's for sure.
I would think so. Yeah. Well, and now comes part of the business of being a professional, to go back, and you do have a job to do, even as distasteful as the situation might be at the moment. You still have to go back and be able to do it. And Keone Kelo working to Anthony Gose, a count of no balls and 2 strikes. And Gose pops another pitch foul, and that is back into the seats. How tough, Mac, would it be for you to redirect your mind back to the job at hand after something like that?
It's difficult. You know, you've got to try to do it. I don't know that you can 100% get your mind back to it after something like that, but you've got to try to do it.
Up the middle, over the bag at second. Elvis has it. Hard throw, got it. Nice play by Elvis Andrus. The Rangers got a break, and that ball hit the upslope of the mound and slowed it down enough for Elvis to be able to grab it. And a nice play by Andrus behind second for the out.
Beautiful play by Elvis. First of all, getting to it. And yes, there was some help by the mound there. Elvis got to it, got rid of it quickly, and threw a strike over to Mitch just to get the speedy ghost. Always had a little bit of trouble getting a grip on it, but he finally got it right at the right time.
Now, one gone. Here's Ian Kinsler now. He's going after that first breaking ball. He was dead set on that fastball, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He was going to swing pretty much no matter where it was.
Kinsler a single in 3 trips tonight, hitting a .304. Now, we've seen Kinsler over the years. Ranger fans will well remember that, the number of fastballs he ambushed in the first at bat of a game. And made clear that the Rangers haven't forgotten about that. They're not going to give him that first pitch fastball or second pitch fastball.
I don't think they're going to give him a third pitch fastball, not to hit anyway.
The 0-2 pitch from Kellen. Ow. That's what happens after you get a couple of curveballs and then get the fastball in there. Beltre fires out, and with 2 outs, Tyler Collins now will come up.
Great job by Kella. Throws Kens a couple of breaking balls, very nasty breaking balls, and then comes back about 95 inside off the plate, and Kinsler went after it.
Tyler Collins 0 for 3 tonight. First ball swinging. Odor dives, has it from his knees, and threw him out. What a play by Rougned Odor. The Ranger leather has been on fire and in evidence here tonight. 3 up, 3 down inning, and Rougned Odor turning in a dandy. We have finished 8 innings here at Comerica. The Rangers still leading 2-0. All right, Dana, thank you. Well, the Rangers come to bat here in the top of the 9th inning, still leading 2-0. Prince Fielder shooting one right back up the middle. Almost took the kneecap off Blaine Hardy. And Prince with his first hit of the night. He's now 1 for 3, and that's how the Ranger 9th inning begins. Fielder talking to Miguel Cabrera down there, and Hanser Alberto is going to come on as a pinch runner for Prince. The fielder finishes tonight 1 for 3, a sacrifice fly for his 70th RBI, and he is aboard. Better get out of the way of that. That thing will take you into center field if it hits you.
Jumped on that first heater.
So 1 on and nobody out, and that's going to do it for Blaine Hardy with Adrian Beltre coming up. Alberto at first. A pitching change again underway. We will take a timeout. We're back to Comerica Park right after this. Tigers bullpen. It's kind of weird to say that from the Tigers bullpen. Phillies is appearing in his 33rd game this year. 3-3, that ERA at 7.24. Has not fared very well in a Tigers uniform, but apparently throwing the ball extremely well. He will face his old teammates for the first time and drops in a slider for strike 1 to Adrian Beltre. Beltre tonight is 0 for 3, a couple of groundouts and a fly ball to center field. Hanser Alberto over at first base. Nobody out. Rangers leading 2-0 here in the top of the 9th inning. Well, that ball is shattered, and that bat is into the seats. Double play turned by the Tigers. Beltre out, and we have seen 2 cases now in the last 15 minutes why there should be screens.
There's no question about it. Nobody can do anything. That's a sharp piece of wood flying end over end into the stands. You're probably not going to get out of the way of that.
Goodness gracious.
Phillies gets in a little bit on Beltre. Makes some firewood.
People down there are very thankful that the only thing that got broken were the young man's glasses. So 2 outs now, bases empty after the double play. Mitch Moreland to face Neftali Feliz. And the pitch down and away for ball 1. And look up the scoreboard, and Feliz with that fastball at 98. And the report has been, ever since he got over here to Detroit, he's been pumping the fastball in at about that almost every time out. Sure, some Ranger fans would say, well, if you'd done that when you were with the Rangers, you'd still be there.
I probably have to agree with that.
Moreland 0 for 3 tonight. Mitch has grounded out a couple of times and struck out. Feliz with a 2-0 pitch. Two balls and a strike. Sean Tollison, who took over the closer's duties from Neftali Feliz back in May. And he has been a rock for the Rangers down there. Backdoor breaking ball. It is 2-2 to Moreland. Feliz, who had Tommy John surgery after the 2012 season, or 2013, I should say. Missed virtually all of last year. Came back and pitched the last month or so. Never really got back to where he was consistently firing the ball. And he gets inside on Moreland. And Kinsler will take that. And two broken bats by Feliz get Beltre into a double play and Moreland into a ground out. We're going to the bottom of the ninth. It's tally time here at Comerica Park. Rangers on top 2-0. At Bat, it's the #1 app for live baseball. At Bat is up to the moment at any moment with in-game highlights, live look-ins, replays, reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and a lot more. Get MLB.com at Bat for your smartphone or your tablet. Well, Sean Tollison on now to see if he can close things out here tonight. Tollison appearing in his 54th ball game. He is 23 out of 24 in save opportunities. Tollison, with the opposition hitting just .227 against him, has his work cut out for him. He will face the middle of the order: Cabrera, Victor Martinez, and J.D. Martinez. And a fastball poured in for strike one. Got some defensive changes we'll get to in just a moment for the Rangers. Ryan Strasburger has taken over in left field, and moving from left over to right is Will Venable. Good fastball in on the fist of Miguel Cabrera. Sean Tollison now with a 0-2 advantage in the count. Cabrera, a pair of doubles, one in the fourth, one in the sixth. 2 for 3 tonight, at batting average currently at .361. 26-year-old right-hander Sean Tollison to the plate, and a line drive up the gap. It's going to be in for extra bases again for Cabrera. Strasburger gets the ball back in. Miguel Cabrera with his third double of the night as he leads off the ninth with that two-bagger.
You know, I was going to say, Buzz, I'm not sure how much of an advantage that is with Cabrera at the plate, having him down 0-2. Most hitters, it's an advantage. Cabrera, maybe not as big an advantage. But Tolly leaves this one hanging up in the zone. And Miggy drives this one into the gap as well. Third double on the night.
Well, the last time Cabrera led off with a double was in the fourth inning. and made a couple of base running mistakes that kept him at second long enough for the Rangers to figure out how to throw him out at the plate on a base hit. It does bring up Victor Martinez now as the tying run in this game. Martinez 0 for 3. 1 ball, no strikes. Victor Martinez is lined to center, skied to deep right center, and lined into a double play. Rangers with the second baseman Rougned Odor playing out in shallow right field. Well, not so shallow right field. It's almost medium right field. That is in at the knees. 1 ball and 1 strike. Sean Tolleson, the Allen, Texas native, took over as the closer full time on May 20th, although he wasn't called the closer for about 7 or 8 days. Finally, Jeff Bannister said, yeah, he's our closer. I'll anoint him as that. He has done nothing to lose that ever since. There's a rifle shot foul down the third baseline, and the count goes to 1-2.
Omar's still pretty quick down there at third. Probably the only third base coach that could have caught that ball.
Yeah. Crowd of 34,718 here in Detroit, making some noise. Tolleson okays the sign. The 1-2 pitch coming to Victor Martinez. Got him swinging. Went upstairs with a fastball at 95 and a huge strikeout for Sean Tolleson. 1 away.
Big out for Tolly right there going up the ladder on Victor Martinez. Usually a pretty disciplined hitter. Tolly put a little bit extra on it. Victor goes after it. Gets the first out of the bottom of the ninth.
1 out. And here's a guy that Sean Tolleson had a little trouble with. A home run by J.D. Martinez. I believe that was in extra innings in Kansas City. He is 1 for 2 against Tolleson with that home run. Off speed, in for strike 1. But I think this is a little different vintage Sean Tolleson than one that J.D. saw before.
Yeah, I think you're right. Tolly's got more than 1 pitch to offer. Nice breaking ball. You saw a changeup right there to get ahead. And, of course, that fastball that we just saw as well.
0-1 pitch. 1 ball and 1 strike.
I think more than anything else with Tolly right now, his location. He's executing his pitches, throwing them pretty much where he wants to, when he wants to, especially that fastball. So that command of the strike zone is huge for him.
Cabrera away from second, and the pitch is on the outside corner. Or close to it. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
You know, as a hitter, there's not much you can do with that pitch there. The pitcher throws a pitch in a certain location, typically down and away, with a little bit of giddy up on it. There's not much a hitter can do. Maybe foul it off, but do any damage with it is pretty difficult.
Next pitch. Boy, that didn't miss by much. Almost right on top of the pitch before. 2 balls, 2 strikes. J.D. Martinez with runners in scoring position this year. Very good. That .308 average will tell you. 5th in the American League with 81 RBI. He's got Miguel Cabrera at second. Tolleson's 2-2. Got him swinging.
Wow.
Little extra cut on that fastball, and Tolleson has punched out the Martinezes. Victor first out. J.D. there are 2 outs.
Tolly staying outside, away from Martinez, just to make sure if he's going to do some damage, he's going to have to do it the opposite way. And look at that. Pitches 2 through 5 right there, all on top of each other. That's pretty good. That's some command right there.
Yeah, the first one, the third pitch, Sean Tolleson got the call from the home plate umpire and said, well, fine, if you're going to call that, I'm going to stay right there. And he did.
Absolutely. That's what you've got to do. Hey, if they're calling it, keep throwing it.
No, 2 away. Nick Castellanos 1 for 3 tonight, is at the plate. Castellanos 0 for 3 in his career against Tolleson. Miguel Cabrera at second. He led off this inning with a double into the gap in left center. He has been anchored there for the next 2 strikeouts. Outside, 2 balls, no strikes, the count. Tolleson last work against Seattle. Got the win in the walk-off against the Mariners back 4 days ago. Trying to get his 24th save in 25 opportunities this year. Ranger infield playing Castellanos around to the left. Outfield maybe a step that way. 2-0 pitch. Off speed and floats in. 2-1. Yeah, there's a huge difference, Mac, in what Sean Tolleson's been able to do as a closer that he didn't do otherwise.
Right. Just having command of that fastball, first of all, I think that sets up everything else. And then to be able to throw a changeup at a fastball count there in this situation and nail that outside corner, that's tremendous pitching.
Tolleson with a high set. The 2-1 pitch. 2-2. Castellanos didn't like it, but that pitch has been a strike this inning.
Wonder if we're going to see it again.
I think the odds are pretty high on it.
You got to keep pumping it there if that umpire is raising that right arm.
Yep. Make the hitter expand the strike zone a bit. Tolleson a check at second. The 2-2. Got him swinging. Tolleson gives the leadoff double to Cabrera. Ends up striking out Victor Martinez, J.D. Martinez, Nick Castellanos, and that is a winner with an exclamation point.
Wow, what a game. What a game. Tolleson came in, did a tremendous job of closing the door. Kelly came in with a nice solid 8th inning. Colby got the job done going deep into the ball game, pitching 7 strong quality innings. Got out of some jams, along, some help from the defense. But that is a huge win for this Rangers ball club tonight.
Well, the Rangers snapped the Tigers' 3-game win streak. And here is that final pitch that just tied up Nick Castellanos.
Not a thing he can do about that. Home plate umpire Brian Knight calling it. That outside pitch, the outside corner, maybe even a little bit further than that, on everybody. And Tolley kept throwing it there, so that's exactly what you've got to do. That's great pitching right there by Tolleson.
Boy, and Tolleson giving up that leadoff double to Cabrera. Each man he faced after that was the tying run, the potential tying run. He struck out Victor Martinez, J.D. Martinez, and Nick Castellanos to close things out. And not just close it out, he slammed the door in the face of the Tigers. And let's set it down to John Radigan, who's standing by.
Yeah, Buzz, standing by with a guy who gets his first hit, his first RBI in your second game. Will Venable, you had to feel pretty good out there today.
Yeah, nice to get the first one out of the way, and more importantly, we won the game, so it's all good.
Yeah, obviously it's very fun to come in and get assimilated with a new bunch of guys. And we talked yesterday about not trying to do too much, sort of letting the game come to you. And is that happening for you?
Yeah, yesterday was a little nerve-wracking. Felt like my first day in the big leagues again. But, day 2, nice and settled, and, glad to get the job done.
There's nothing easy about hitting off Justin Verlander. You battled in there, and then you finally got the good hit.
Yeah, he obviously got great stuff, great pitcher, and, was able to get one in the gap there and push one across.
And then a nice play at the plate. You'd gunned down Miguel Cabrera there trying to score from left field. That was a nice defensive play, flashing a little leather for it.
Yeah, I only had like one finger on the ball when I threw it. I'm surprised